Okay, welcome. My name is Sarah. I'm a tarot and oracle card reader. And here is a reading. Present to you with a reading. There's some information in my description box that is worth just having a quick skim through. It's helpful to you as a viewer. These readings are absolutely intended as collective readings. They are timeless, so just please watch with an open mind and discernment. Okay, very important. Also, please pay attention to any of your own kind of insights and intuitions that you have when you're watching. Because they are very important for you personally and will be indicative of something or other. So yeah. So I want to start this one. I actually pulled the cards trying to expand upon a message that I wrote down. I've dated it the 31st of March. It feels like it was further back than that, but that is the date that I've put. So I'm going to read this message out to you, the message that I wrote down, because it is context, at least, for the cards that I'm going to discuss, okay? The power of words to speak something into being. The potentiality of creation is far greater than the illusory manifest world. Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great Hermes, spoke himself into being. So Hermes Trismegistus is a kind of mythical figure, okay? Known as the thrice great Hermes. A very prolific figure in Hermeticism. But he spoke himself into being. To repeat something is to create it. To speak it is to build it. So be mindful of what's spoken. The importance of new narratives. We learn from history, but to only speak of how things have gone before is to keep creating the same thing, or the potential of that same outcome is increased greatly. A new narrative introduces new energy through creative concept. A new narrative requires imagination, magic. It's new, it hasn't existed before. To reach for it is to form it, make it, build it. Do not underestimate the power of what is spoken, one way or the other. Understand that the cosmic energy is very much in favour of creating the new and bringing down the old. But if the old stories are perpetually restated and reiterated through speaking them into being again, then the most powerful tool at people's disposal is not being used in the way you are being guided to use it. Speak the new and it shall be. It will come. Right. That is that. Doo-doo-doo. So that message, it sometimes happens, quite often happens, where I will be going about my day, doing whatever I'm doing, and I will just get a message very clearly, just arrive in my head. And I will write it down, and there will just be I don't really have to kind of think about what I'm writing. It just kind of comes. that was one such message. Yeah. So there was around that time, and prior to that, there seemed to be quite a big emphasis on words and things being spoken anywhere. I do remember it kind of being a bit of a theme, like energetically speaking, it was a theme. And then that message came through. But I remember basically I was doing my I was doing some cleaning, and it just kind of stopped me. I just stopped what I was doing and I wrote that down. And then I remember feeling a bit kind of overwhelmed because, right, it's talking about like the power of words to speak something into being. And I was very aware that I think I do not watch the news, okay? Make that point now. I do not watch the mainstream media, the news. Do not. Very selective about what I watch in that regard and when I watch it. And with the overwhelm that I felt when I got that message, I'm pretty sure that I'd watched some news that day, because the awareness was this sense of there were all these different kind of news and media outlets, and they're all speaking stuff, and they're all speaking it over and over and over again, over and over again. So the power of words thing, the power of speech, the power of what is actually being said, I was just like, oh fuck, in that particular moment, okay? So with the cards that have come out, that remember I sort of asked the cards to kind of clarify or expand upon that message, or just say whatever they needed to say in addition to it. So I've got all these cards here, okay? So there is a big thing, I think, about words, but also about silence. I've got some new narratives was mentioned there, and I pulled a card out from a deck that I haven't used in a little while because there's this new narratives card in it. So this talks about new stories for yourself, but then also consequently for future generations. Okay, new stories that are kind of born from making the choice to sort of leave behind. It's phrased as toxic patterns, like the author of the deck phrases it as toxic patterns. But we could sort of say toxic patterns, toxic beliefs, toxic speech, right? Toxic ideas, societal and personal, right? Sort of leaving them behind and moving away from them. And the author of this card, this deck, also asked the question with this, like, are you living with love? Right? Are you living with love? Especially through situations where your ancestors could not. Okay. New narratives, new stories, new paradigms, right? The new stories, new words, new ideas, new. There's a really big emphasis on that collectively, right, but also personally. It can be a bit, like I said, like overwhelming to think of something on a really massive collective scale, often the entry point into that, or the thing that we absolutely need to do first, is kind of address it for ourselves on a personal one. Okay, so there is most definitely something about the words that we use with ourselves, like our kind of internal monologue, or the way that we articulate things to ourselves. Okay, I have a kind of story, a bit of an example to give if I remember to give it. But there is this, it's like, be mindful of how you speak to yourself, how you articulate things to yourself. Right, first and foremost. Because if we do that, then there is an effect outside of ourselves as well. We will do it outside of ourselves, but there is, it's important. So the first card out was the Tower. The Tower. Okay. So this was very much saying, like, the outer world. The outer world. The Tower is a card of Mars, so its element is fire. There is a lot of air coming out in this reading, and air is communication, right? Whether that's spoken, written, digital, whatever. Like, very much deals with the mind as well. So even though, so air is coming through here, even though the traditional association elementally with the card is fire because of Mars. But it's kind of talking about outer world, masculine. Okay. Masculine, fire is a masculine element, so is air. They're both active elements. And regardless of how we identify in terms of gender, we all do have masculine and feminine attributes and energies. We all have them, okay? We all have them. In this reading, there's a lot of kind of outer here, and then we very much go sort of inner in these other cards. So outer is kind of action, taking action, doing things outside of yourself, right? It's kind of outer. The water is kind of the inner realm, right? The inner world and all that contains, which would be the kind of feminine. So the Tower. In the 8 years that I have been reading tarot, I have never had the Tower of Babel come through with this card in the way that it has come through in this reading. And it is like the Tower of Babel, right? It's what the imagery, especially in kind of more traditional decks, is based on the Tower of Babel, like the biblical story of people building a tower up to the heavens and then kind of getting struck down by a bolt of lightning. Yeah, it's very much based in Christian iconography, biblical iconography, but it is never an association that I get. But so strongly with this, so strongly with this. And it's interesting here, right, because this is a woman, so this is a depiction of feminine energy kind of falling out of the tower. Interesting for what's coming up. So the Tower here is talking about structure, but it's talking about it really in the sense of like the arrangement of and relations between the parts or elements of something complex, okay? So it isn't really talking about like its solitary structure, like a tower, like a building. It's coming through with all this kind of complexity that is outside of the personal self, right? It's like outer world complexity. And the thing that was actually being communicated to me really strongly as what this is representing here is quite specifically like the news, like the mainstream news. But I think that could definitely be expanded out into like the wider media, right? Because it's a huge structure, right? It's this really kind of dominant, big, imposing structure that has a lot of complexity. It's got a lot of moving parts to it. But I was kind of getting this visual. I was just getting this visual of like lots and lots of sort of TVs. Lots of TVs sort of stacked on top of each other, stacked really high, just going up really, really high, really high. And all of the screens like were on, and they were all kind of sort of brightly lit. They were all on. There was just so much kind of going on. Tower of screens, okay? So the news and media is like this kind of always on, quite unrelenting, imposing thing. Imposition, right? It imposes. It's like it's always kind of there. It doesn't... I mean, I suppose it does have its boundaries, doesn't it? Because it's a structure, but it's not terribly respectful of, I think, the boundaries of the wider public, right? It's a bit of like a bombardment, an energy of bombardment. It just kind of comes at you, right? Quite aggressively, right? With the Mars energy, it's like quite an aggressive beast. So there was the Tower of Babel idea. I also got reminded of a phrase that I came across probably about 15 years ago, because I love folklore, and I'm really fascinated by folklore in different parts of the world. And in Louisiana folklore, there's a phrase, gumboyoya, and it means like everybody talks at once. Tower of Babel, gumboyoya, everybody talking at once. So there's this idea of like it's kind of nonsensical because everybody's talking at once. It's kind of, there's a sense of like it's unintelligible. It doesn't make any sense because it's all just coming at you. It overlays, it overlaps. It's just, right? It's just like a gaggle. It's gibberish. It's gibberish. And it's sort of the tower as well, like the tower in the tower is always depicted as coming down. So it's like, it's saying like the news, the media, right, as much as it's this kind of widespreading, established, imposing thing, it's indicating here like it's inherently unstable. Because it's being depicted as it's inherently unstable. I've written here as well, this needs to be understood, that it's inherently unstable. Because when something is so established and so in your face like that, it feels overbearing, doesn't it? It maybe kind of feels like it's more solid or more indestructible than it actually is. It's like it needs to be understood. Cards are saying like it needs to be understood that that is an inherently unstable structure. Right? It's that understanding that that can be taken down, that can be brought down, removes some of the power from it, doesn't it? Not sure how the media would be taken down or any of that, but that's perhaps not really the point. It's saying like it can be. It can be. It's inherently unstable. There was a lot of quite heavy messaging that came through with this. So yeah, like much being said by many, much loud chatter, yeah. Also like the sense, it came out with this feeling card, so this feeling overwhelmed by it, right? Feeling overwhelmed by it. And they were like, I kept getting the word mania, like mania, frenzy. So mania, late Middle English via late Latin from the Greek, literally meaning like madness, like to be mad. And I've written here, the news and wider media being in a state analogous to psychosis. Right, so I just want to make that very clear. What it's saying, that the news and media, that whole wider structure, that big structure, is in a state that is analogous to psychosis, right? So psychosis, like thoughts and perceptions being disrupted, difficulty recognizing like what is real and what is not. This whole kind of smoke and mirrors, like lies, untruths, right, that the media kind of puts out and perpetuates, lies and untruths, smoke and mirrors. So thoughts and perceptions are kind of distorted, aren't they? Within the news, within the mainstream news, the wider media. And then they're kind of put out, those distortions are kind of then put out into wider society. So it's all this. And if you are the general public watching the news, exposed to that, there's that sense of how do you recognize what's real and what is not? How do you recognize within this huge fucking beastie structure, how do you recognize like what is truth and what is lies, right? It's a lot of deception in it. So it's deceptive by its very nature, and it can affect the mind. That's the nature of the beast, what I've written. And then I've written, a healthy mind cannot be well adjusted to this. right? So that was why it was coming through with the quite heavy analogy of psychosis. The news and wider media being in a state analogous to psychosis, right? Because if an individual is in a state of psychosis, they need help, right? They need professional help with that, because it's very serious. Their sense of reality gets incredibly distorted, right? Very dangerous for them and potentially other people. So it's kind of making the point, it's quite an extreme example, but it is making the point of it's not healthy. A healthy mind cannot be well adjusted to psychosis, right? The point is, psychosis is somebody is not well, their mind is not healthy, okay? So wider media, a healthy mind cannot be well adjusted to it, right? There is something specifically about the news though, about like the news, the mainstream news. A healthy mind cannot be well adjusted to it. It can have us feel. So this is where we start. This is like the inner world, right? If this is the outer world kind of coming at you in a sense, yeah. This is kind of talking about how that can affect our inner world, how that can make us feel. Again, like the feeling overwhelmed by it can leave us feeling a bit lost or disoriented, right? A bit scrambled, a bit kind of not really knowing what's what, getting a bit lost in it, right? It's like overexposure to it can have us feeling quite lost in it. Can be, I've written like a lack of a sense of direction as well, right? Because it's just like disoriented, like you know, it's like it's dizzying. It's dizzying. It's so much. It's so kind of unrelenting that it's just very dizzying. It's like getting spun round and round and round and round, and then having to walk in a straight line, right? You can't fucking do it. It's just it's like being in it, overexposure to it is not healthy. That's what it's saying, right? It's saying, and it's using all these quite like heavy, extreme like analogies to have us understand that, right? I was reminded of a quote as well. Krishnamurti, who is an Indian writer, not with us anymore. I think he was quite prolific sort of in the 30s, 40s, 50s maybe. But there was a quote, it's no sign of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Okay, so like I said, I don't watch the news, right? I have my reasons for that. It's like there's nothing wrong with you if you can't be exposed to this, or you have a limitation of how much of this you can be exposed to. You know, you can't with it at all. There's nothing wrong with that. It's saying like, the fact that you can't be in it, or the fact that you have to have your boundaries with it, that you have to have that, is a sign of health, right? It's saying can't be well adjusted to this mania here, right? You can't. It's the nature of mania. Is what it is, right? The stomach is making some very interesting noises, by the way. Right. But there was also, so because the idea of words, right? The oracle card that came out with this was the rather beautiful night sky. And this, I posted a reading back in February called The Tower Meets the Star. Tower Meets the Star, which that reading, more than any other, I think recently, the energy of it I've kind of felt the energy of it. I've kind of recognized that message. I've recognized that message in things more so than I have with others. But there was something that I said in that message that it was sort of in the last kind of 10 minutes of the video, and I was reading from the book that the authors of the deck created with the deck, right? And I was reading from about the magician, the interpretation of the magician, and there was something very specifically about sometimes it's kind of better to not waste your time dismantling old myths and to instead kind of put the focus on creating the new ones, right? Creating the new narratives, the new storylines, because they would be the things that kind of dispelled the fears and harm. So this big structure that's coming through here is like some Tower of Babel mad shit that is the kind of wider, like certainly the mainstream news. It's like it's perpetuating old myths and they're harmful, and there's this kind of fear. It perpetuates this fear, okay? So it's the emphasis on the new narratives. It's like there's already this big thing that's kind of going over the old and regurgitating and kind of just, right, speaking it into being again. There needs to be the kind of the new, it needs to be balanced out. Like there's too much of this anyway, to the point where it's unstable, right? Come down. So the Tower and the Star, there might be something in that reading for you, might be worth watching. But definitely like the last kind of 10-15 minutes is when I sort of say something quite specific that I definitely meant to write down, but I've not had time to do it. Sorry. But with the night sky, this talks about kind of guidance and clarity, okay? How the ancestors used to use the constellations for guidance and navigation. So as well, that with the new narratives, are you living with love, especially sort of where your ancestors could not? But also the author of the deck also says your path is clear and there's some guidance. There's some kind of guidance. So it might be in that reading, okay? it might behoove you to just have a look exactly at what I'd said, because I can't remember word for word, but it was basically about not kind of wasting time on dismantling all the old shit coming down anyway, right? Like focus on the new. So that's part of the guidance here, because I'm reiterating it, right? The new. Your path is clear. What if that's, yeah, what if that's the guidance from the ancestors? Guidance from the spirit realm. We're not seeing it, right? The illusory manifest world. All this old paradigm. It's kind of in your face, isn't it? Especially in the media. It's all very in your fucking face all the time. And it can seem like that's all there is. And I think there's some guidance here of like, perhaps the path being clearer than it's perceived to be. Understand that the mania is not yours. I mean, it can affect us in really detrimental ways as well, okay? It can affect us in really detrimental ways. So there is something with this individuation card coming up. There's something very important about being able to distinguish yourself from that structure of mania, okay? Recognize that you are not of it. Its mania is not yours, okay? There's like distinguish. And really, one of the most effective ways of doing that is to not expose oneself to it, even if that is just for a period of time, so you've got the kind of the contrast, right? So you know what your mental state and your mind and your emotional state is when you are not exposed to the relenting babble of the news. I keep wanting to, I've expanded it to media, like generally, because it's a big thing, isn't it, the media? But the news seems to be kind of especially strong, right? Because I can definitely kind of get on board from personal experience, right, of just kind of not with the news, right? I will go on for specific reasons and to know more about certain things, but I'm very selective about when I do that. So I don't expose myself to just this unrelenting fucking blah, blah, blah. So I can distinguish myself from it, right? But I also recognise more readily what it does to my mental state, right? Because I have that time away from it. I know then, right? It feels fucking crunchy when I watch something. I notice the difference. It's really distinct. So it's like, it's important to be able to kind of know that the mania isn't yours, right? Because it can maybe have us like a bit of a head fuck, right? It can be a bit of a head fuck, a lot of a head fuck. So it's knowing that it's this bigger structure that's kind of, it's the effect that it sort of has on us all, right? Potentially has that effect on us all. So yeah, know your truth, know your mind. It is distinct from the tower here. It's really emphasizing that, okay? So if anyone's headspace has been feeling particularly kind of frenzied or kind of caught up in that, it is, I mean, if you are worried about your mental health, please do speak to somebody. But this message here is, and all the cards, right, they are indicating like coming out of it, and it's like you'll recognize what is yours. You'll recognize yourself, okay, as distinct from this. It's like this can jumble our inner world, our mind specifically, probably, yeah. Okay. So the Fool came out with individuation. So the Fool is 0. So the beginning of a new story. It's like the beginning of the new narrative. So leaving, stepping out of the machine that perpetuates all the old narratives, the stories of fear and harm. 0, it's like it's setting out on some kind of literal or metaphorical journey, right? And it's a starting point with 0. It's being free from the tower, and thus the journey begins, kind of one, right? The beginning of the new story. It's like a step in the right direction. Even if, you know, you're just limiting exposure to that. Okay, so the Fool. Right, there was something about gestation of the new with this. Developing over a period of time, something will develop on the journey. So the Fool is indicating a journey. 0. Did a reading called What and Where is 0? That might be interesting to watch, I don't know. But it is, right, it's saying the Fool is elemental air as well. So this is really indicating like communication and the mind. So it's kind of saying like leaving this behind, something, it sort of gives space or allows for something to start developing. It's like this is the starting point that the journey has begun. The journey has begun here. And it's like it's almost kind of instantaneous, this kind of being able to distinguish. It's that I think it's going to be understood or recognized, seen quite quickly that the mania was not of you, right? And these two cards, they came out with the Geode. So this is where the idea of like the inner world started to come in, right? Because the Geode is all about like inner beauty, inner self, harmony, and divine feminine, because of its structure, right? It's kind of similar to the womb. So this is where the idea of gestation started to come in. But that, so the divine feminine, it's talking about turning down the outside world, right? The input from specifically the news, I think, right? There's definitely something about the news, but it's about like retreating into the inner realms, right? So you could be literally going on a journey somewhere, but you know, we go on a journey every night when we go to sleep, have a dream, okay? So it's talking about the inner, right? Even if you are going on an outward journey, there's some really significant kind of inner thing that's going on, because it's kind of the remedy, the soothing for all this Tower of Babel nonsense, right? But it's harmful nonsense. But so it is talking about like it starts something. It's like this period of gestation. Over a period of time, something is developing. But elemental air, the Fool, the mind, could be talking about like freeing the mind, right? Because I think another thing I said in that Tower and Star reading, it's like information, like putting things into your mind that once they're there, do you know what I mean? And then But when that just has this real unrelenting quality to it, it's like it feels fucking crunchy. Did I say that? It's like a crunchy headspace. It creates a crunchy headspace. You just kind of want to shake the information out. Do you know what I mean? So this is kind of almost like the antithesis of that, really. It's kind of saying out of, away from that, it's clearer. There's this kind of freedom from it. It resets to zero. It resets to zero. You reset to zero, so you're at the beginning, right? You're at the start of this new phase, which is just with the Ace of Cups coming next. It's kind of just reinforcing that idea, right? This Ace of Cups. So the aces are number one in a suit, but so they are the root of the power of whatever element. So here, the root of the powers of water. So it's that idea again of like inner world, right? It's saying what is needed, right, for all this fiery tower kind of aggressive communication or outer world stuff. You need to root into your inner, root into the inner realm. I mean, I think it's necessary, but it's also, it's like it's necessary so it's happening. So there might have been like a particular kind of there might have been a particular kind of point in this where the crunch got very much, and it was just like, get out of it, because it was necessary, right? It's that kind of, there being some kind of impetus, like maybe things got quite intense, so it was an impetus to kind of do something, to move away from it, okay? Like the impetus to do something was it just kind of got a bit much. Because we all have different kind of tolerance as well, don't we? Like our boundaries are different, our tolerance of things can be different. So that as well, right? There might have been a certain amount of sort of withstanding this, but then there was a kind of crunch point and just get out, because it was necessary, right? If we're at a crunch point, there's some kind of necessary something being indicated to us there. And here it just seems to be like not participating in it for a period of time, right? And then it's this root of the powers of water. So there's just this strong indication, urging, advice to kind of go into your inner world, right? To root down into that, go real deep, root. Because it came out with the manta ray, the old manta ray again, which talks actually about like a lot of depth, right? So a lot of emotional depth, really kind of being able to get down into that. But it also talks about like grace and calmness and composure as well. And a kind of grace and confidence, being able to explore deep emotion as well, right? So being comfortable rooting down, being comfortable with your inner world, right? Comfortable enough to just sort of spend time by yourself, with yourself, in yourself. Depth of emotion, right, it can bring up some stuff as well, right? So saying if it does, it's kind of indicating with the manta ray, like if it does kind of bring maybe sort of potentially uncomfortable or just like deep stuff up, there's the kind of ability to kind of move through that with calmness and composure, right? It's not going to be kind of abrasive or right. It's very much the opposite to this. Like, all this water is kind of soothing this, right? Soothing this. So all this depth, a lot of water, it's kind of because that's necessary, it's needed to soothe the fire, okay? But cups as well, right? I often sort of, the emotional aspect of them does come through a lot in my readings, but they also, you know, they indicate like changeability, pleasure. I've put an asterisk by pleasure. Like fertile vitality, receptivity, intuition, imagination. Right, so pleasure, it might just be like going, like I said it at the end of my last reading, it's like enjoy yourself. Like whatever we're supposed to be enjoying ourselves, this isn't coming through here as something enjoyable, it's just coming through as like aggressive, unrelenting, and analogous to psychosis, right? So unhealthy. It's like, no, yes. At least for a period of time. There needs to be some kind of soothing and recharging, I think. Well, not I think, that is absolutely what is being communicated here, I think. Soothing and recharging, because there's just a lot of intensity. The other thing, actually, with this, I'm going to go back to, I didn't mention it, but I'm going to sort of just mention vicarious trauma, okay, which I don't ever talk about my job in these videos, and I likely won't do again, but I am literally kind of qualified to to kind of at least communicate, you know, what I'm going to mention here about vicarious trauma, because I have to do, well, I have to know about trauma in my job. I do a lot of different professional development training. It's very much a part of what I do, because I currently work with people who have trauma. So it's very important, but the idea with the news and the media and this unrelenting fucking thing, okay? So it's important to understand, right, because the tower can symbolise as well like a traumatic event, right? It can. Trauma can indicate that. It's kind of the energy of something shocking, something kind of, right? But it's very helpful to understand like how trauma is psychologically defined, because it's often, I think, associated with like severe trauma, right? When people kind of think of trauma, they think of severe trauma, you know, such as car accidents, war, right? Severe trauma. But actually, we all have trauma. There is a kind of spectrum of severity, and it impacts and affects us in different ways. But everybody, we do, psychologically speaking, we all have trauma, okay? So psychological trauma is a person's experience of emotional distress that results from an event that overwhelms the capacity to emotionally digest it. Okay, so I'll say that again. right? It's a person's experience of emotional distress that results from an event that overwhelms the capacity to emotionally digest it. So the reason that is coming through here is because the news, unrelenting, always, right? And that what it's reporting, right? What you're being told about, what's being communicated to you is very often distressing. It's very often distressing. But vicarious trauma, right? Vicarious trauma is experienced or realized through imaginative or sympathetic participation in the experience of another. So it's empathy, right? Kind of empathizing and sympathizing. So basically vicarious trauma is kind of indirect. It's indirect trauma, right? So the trauma, the traumatic thing doesn't have to have happened to you personally, but when you are indirectly exposed to it, you can really feel, right? It can affect you because can you emotionally digest it? Are you actually able to emotionally digest? So it's why in my current job, trauma training is really important for the people that I work with, but it also for me, right? So we're not all having sort of trauma responses with each other. So I'm able to kind of set and maintain boundaries, and so I can respect other people's, okay? Vicarious trauma, but okay. So we can be exposed to it indirectly, and it can really affect us. Vicarious trauma. Right, so yeah, indirect exposure, so witnessing or learning about traumatic events happening to others. Absolutely, the news and media, right? But also, like, trauma, yes, from severe events such as war, okay? But also, like, ongoing and repeated things, okay? So like chronic exposure to things. And actually in my training, some of the examples they gave, like chronic exposure to socioeconomical difficulties, to financial struggles, to poverty, to war, all of those things can be traumatic if somebody is just that's an ongoing theme for them, right? That has some degree of impact, like traumatic impact for people. So the thing with the news, the media, it's like it's innately this machine that kind of can vicariously traumatize us. It's because we're exposed to it all the time. And you get warnings on the news, you know, if you are shown distressing footage from a war zone, there tends to be like a warning for people, so you can make the decision to watch it or not, okay? But actually there isn't a warning for a lot of other stuff that you see in the news that you are repeatedly exposed to, but it can have the same kind of impact if you are just relentlessly exposed to it. So there's all this idea of please kind of understand that watching things on the news and in the media and doing that just without any kind of filter or without any kind of boundary for yourself, it can have a psychological impact, right? Even if you are not directly experiencing a traumatic event, if you are kind of exposed to it, exposed to it, exposed to it, right? And especially because there is all this kind of feeling being emphasized here. If you are someone who is naturally kind of quite in touch with their feelings, or you just feel it, right? You just empathize with people. It can be overwhelming. And it's already like an unhealthy structure anyway, right? Inherently unstable structure. So it's like there's a lot to be kind of mindful of there. There's why there's really like a really big emphasis to kind of go inner, like switch off from that and go inner, soothe it, because it can, right? I don't like talking about my job, and cannot stress strongly enough, I'm not a psychologist, but I do work in a sector, in a particular role where I am kind of professionally qualified to comment on it. So, okay. It'd be really helpful if we all kind of got taught, I think, what trauma actually is. Right, where was I up to? Kind of lost my... Where was I up to? Right, Ace of Cups. Ace of Cups. Came out with the manta ray. Okay, so the Ace of Cups, though, was also talking about... Right. Again, like coming out with the Fool, right? It's talking about this idea of commencement. Something is commencing, coming into being. It's emerging. It's emerging. It's emerging. I've put the beautiful thing is starting to happen. The beautiful thing is starting to happen because there is something beautiful happening. I'm pretty sure I keep saying that. Something along those lines, right? But it is this... It's this emotional thing. It's emotionally fulfilling. It's like it has to be other from what this tower is representing, I think, because it kind of has to be. It's like it's imbalanced. It's imbalanced. So yeah, the beautiful thing is starting to happen. So when there's been some kind of just turning away, taking a bit of a pause or a break from that tower, it immediately kind of reset. Well, maybe not immediately resets, but it does kind of put someone at the proverbial zero, right? It is the beginning of a new journey, the Fool and the Ace of Cups, because the Ace is a 1, right? They're the start of a suit. The beautiful thing is starting to happen. But I've also put remembering how something feels, immersion. Right, with the manta ray as well, talking about that depth. It's like as an absolute counter fucking thing to this tower and what I've been discussing here. It's like there is just this immersion in the inner world, I think, in the inner space. Okay, I keep wanting to say because it's necessary, because it needs to happen. It's like that it balances whatever kind of hectic crunchiness this tower, that is the effect of this tower. Okay, very important for the personal mind as well with the Fool, right? Very important. The beautiful thing is starting to happen. Remembering how something feels. That could be, right, if that tower energy has been something that has maybe been occupied for quite a long time, or there's just been like a lot of exposure to it. It could be saying like it's just kind of forgotten how it feels to be free of that. It could be saying that. In fact, it maybe is. But I think with this idea, with this manta ray and this immersion, it's new. It's the idea of like writing the new, okay? So it's not kind of going back to some kind of previous emotional state before the tower. It's saying it's a completely new, it's new, it's like a new emotional state. There's immersion. You're going to be immersed in it. The beautiful thing is starting to happen. What else have I written? Remembering how something feels. Have I said commencement, coming into being? I also got the word Genesis as well, because got gnosis out. Gnosis. Right, so gnosis is a Greek concept, Greek word, very generally kind of meaning like knowledge of spiritual mysteries, which I have written down, but I've written in brackets you. So there is some kind of knowledge of self-knowledge, knowledge of the inner realms. This is where Genesis came in because of the book. I don't think it's not like, I mean, is the Tower of Babel in the book of Genesis? I think it might be, but really it was just the definition of Genesis, right? So, which is like the origin or mode of formation of something, right? The air is the root of the powers of water. So this is like an origin point. The origin of formation of something. I've written, because, right, it comes after the individuation as well. Able to see yourself clearly, so in turn you are able to see outside of self clearly. So it's right, that distinction's been made. You've been able to distinguish yourself from the mania of the tower, separated oneself from it, recognized that you're not of it, okay? It's not yours. This mania is not yours. Right, so that's probably some of the self-knowledge, okay? There's maybe like a deeper understanding. Remember, there was something here with the night sky about guidance. There's some guidance. Your path is clear. It's maybe this tower like confuses or just really obstructs, right? It really obstructs the path. Which could just translate as like you, like a really jumbled headspace. So you're kind of, things just seem more jumbled, right? They maybe can't see quite as clearly where you're going. But the guidance here since the beginning has been like, your path is clear. But you have to look to the more peaceful space, right? You have to look to the more peaceful space. Right, it's the night sky is peaceful, okay? It brings peace, brings you peace. This came out with snow, which was talk, right? So silence, gentleness, a pause. The world around you being quiet and still. And so a quiet and still inner. This is kind of a quiet and still inner world. Sans the hubbub, yeah, sans the external hubbub, babble, all that kind of. This is like peace. You're able to see something clearly about yourself, but right, so in turn you can see something clearly outside of yourself as well. There's a sense of like awe and wonder with this as well, in quite a childlike way, because of the snow. Because everyone, I have this with rainbows. I get, you know, when I see a rainbow, I just get quite like, you know, it fills me with awe. I saw a double rainbow one time when I was out for a walk, and I remember just kind of running so I could see, so it, so just like a kid, right? So it doesn't have to be snow, but something that kind of inspires it, or it just absolutely fills you with awe and wonder, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing, right? But it's also got this kind of gentleness, got like a gentle kind of quiet and still energy to it as well. Right, so then interestingly, after Gnosis, we get the Page of Swords, which is very much right, it's very much a kind of energy of looking and observation, watching, like paying attention, giving your attention to something, okay? I've put here as well, it's that idea of like remembering something again. Remembering and rediscovering. Right, that's the knowledge, right? Something's been rediscovered and you're paying attention to it. Rediscovered, remembered, so you're paying attention to it. But it actually like came out with the imagination card, like the actual imagination card. So this was kind of giving the idea of like the part of the mind that imagines things, right? The imagination. But it's like this quite like young thing. So it could be that idea of like childlike wonder. Could be that sort of awe. Like there's just a lot of wonderment in it. And you're paying attention to it. But I've also put like reimagining. And it's swords as well, right? So swords very much talk about like communication, words. So back to that message that I read out at the beginning with the idea of reimagining. Right? So the new narratives, maybe this is where the new narrative, this is where the new narrative kind of comes in. The beautiful thing is starting to happen. So there's like a kind of keenness, right? All that like watching, paying attention to, it's like there's a kind of keenness and a curiosity with the Page of Swords. Like they want to learn. So I've put learning how to use, creating the image of something in your mind's eye. What else? Yeah, creating the image of something in your mind's eye, and it's new. So like I've already said, it's not some kind of emotional state. that you are going back to, that you have already been in. It's not, you're not kind of reminiscing or imagining your past. That's not what the reimagining is talking about. It's talking about this really new thing. It's like a new storyline, a new narrative for yourself. So it might be like reimagining how things could be for yourself, right? Like I was saying, you know, trying to sort of reimagine a sort of big collective change is quite a big thing, isn't it? It can be quite a lot. If we can start to kind of pay attention to ourselves and how things might be new for ourselves, like new aspects and new perspectives. But there is like an emphasis on learning, because it's the Page of Swords. It's like learning. So it might be someone who's quite new at sort of like utilizing their imagination. They're maybe just quite new to it, like a new skill. They kind of, because imagination, right, the faculty or action of forming new ideas, images or concepts of external objects not present to the senses. But the Page of Swords, again, he is at once a faculty and an action, right? Because air is like an active element, and it's, so this could even be like writing. This could be writing. It could be writing or communication or a message, right? It could be a message. It could be something simple like that. But this real kind of, right? I mean, it could be a message. Faculty or action of forming new ideas. Could be writing something down. But of external objects not present to the senses. So it's just like it's new. It's just a new thing. Yay. Yeah, starting to sharpen the faculty of imagination, the practice of imagining. There's also this idea, right, of like, could be why it's a young page energy, because, you know, like on a personal one, right, I've kind of, you know, when you have like really kind of broken some old patterns for yourself and kind of bust free of like your old shit, right? Shit that, you know, maybe made you unhappy, or it held you back, or it just had whatever, or it's just old, right? Just move on with stuff. And once you've kind of done the deep dive, done the kind of required deep dives and sort of resolved shit for yourself, it can be this very sort of peaceful state. Peaceful state. But you can find yourself at a point where you're just, because we learn from the past, right? And the past kind of informs and forms our beliefs about things in the present, doesn't it? Again, to go back to that note I said at the beginning, it's like, but when you have resolved your shit from the past, it's not relevant anymore. It's not relevant. So you can just find yourself at this point where, in the most beautiful and peaceful kind of way, you just realize that you just do not fucking know what's actually coming next, or what something would look like, because you know it's not anything from your past. You know it's none of that. So it's like you don't have anything to kind of gauge or measure it against. But it doesn't sort of induce this feeling of like panic. It's you just quite at peace with, you like, oh, I don't know. right? I don't actually know what this would look like. I don't know what this would be like, because it would be an entirely new experience for me. So until I have the experience, right, create that new narrative, step into that new narrative. But it's just like, it's all quite new. So that could be what the page is talking about here. It's like really blessed, it's amazing, but it's just like, oh yeah, I don't know. Because you know, do you get what I'm saying there? And these two came out with the Moonstone, which, so it's very soothing, is this. So again, there's a lot of soothing is going on here. But again, like I was just saying, right, peaceful, it's kind of, you don't fucking know, but you're at peace with the fact that you don't, do you know what I mean? It's like, it's new. It's new. It's like a new chapter, a new beautiful thing. Yeah, so Moonstone, in terms of like crystal, its energy is very good for overcoming like grief or stress. Okay, so again, it's like imagining the new, sinking into your inner world, being in that, really immersing yourself in that is going to be the thing that overcomes any kind of stress or grief that has been brought about by this. Okay. What's being imagined helps soothe the mind. Okay. So what's being imagined could be different for lots of folks, but wherever it is, it's soothing. It's a soothing thing. Brings some, you would say, peace. But also with the Moonstone, there's ideas of like ethereal beauty and recharging, right, as well. It's a good stone for sort of recharging your energy. Some cultures believe it to be the moon's rays solidified, which I've just written down because I think that's really gorgeous. So yeah, so there's a lot of soothing, beautiful stuff going on here. So if anyone kind of needs any sort of reassurance, if this has been like head fucky, don't worry about it. It's gonna be all good. There's all this stepping into all this beautiful kind of new stuff. It's gorgeous. You're gonna imagine some lovely shit as well. It's gonna soothe you. If you've been feeling a bit out of touch with your imagination because the head's been very busy with other stuff, or just quite crumpled with other stuff, it's going to clear. It's going to open up. It's going to be reimagining some stuff for yourself, man. And that faculty of imagination is just going to get stronger, right? Going to strengthen it, because you're going to be paying attention to it with the page. That's kind of the point. You're going to be really paying attention to whatever's coming to you in your imagination, in your mind's eye, your intuition as well. So all of these, all inner feminine, right, classed as kind of feminine qualities, which is why I said about the woman falling out of the tower. It's interesting that it's a depiction of a woman. If the Mars is like the kind of masculine, it's like there's something, all of these feminine kind of qualities, like your intuition, your imagination, your inner world, your emotional body, your emotional health, it's all kind of cast out a bit, isn't it, in the Western society that I live in anyway. It's kind of, it's cast out of things in quite an extreme way. So it's actually saying as well, these cards, it's like the absolute thing that is needed here are those feminine qualities, those feminine things, those things that are kind of disregarded and cast out because they're feminine. They're going to be the things that overcome this, right? Possibly the things that help one manage and negotiate this as well, if it's like something that's got to be you have to kind of expose yourself to it a lot. Okay. So then, beautifully, the last card out was Justice. Justice. So if this is like an overwhelming kind of human-made, large, complex structure, perpetuating head fucks for the kind of mass population, this is like justice, right? And yes, justice in an earthly sense, I suppose in the where judicial systems are kind of fair, whatever. But really it kind of talks about sort of divine justice, right? So it might not necessarily be what we as humans think is fair and right. But it's like I was saying here, the thing that was necessary, the thing that counters that aggressive tower energy is sinking into possibly like the neglected feminine, right? The neglected feminine. Because if all of this kind of represents like chatter outward, like the rational mind, reason, all of, you know, that, the thing that absolutely the universe is overwhelmingly in favor of is sinking into your inner world, right? It has been ruled that that is the just thing to do. I've also written here like overwhelmingly in favor of the new. It's helping to write the new narrative through the all-important faculty of imagination, right? Universe, like a kind of a divine giant mind. We are divine giant mind. I've also put divine support to flex and expand your imagination. And so there's reciprocity here, because these scales would bring into mind the Two of Cups, which is again a water card, but it's a card of reciprocity, like a kind of back and forth, balance, it's shared, it's equal. Yeah. So divine support to flex and expand your imagination, because there is truth and justice to be found there. So it's like that, isn't it? No. The external. Oh, there was a question. There was a question about the news. If you didn't watch the news, do you think you would know less, or do you think you would know more? There's something about that. Something about that. It's like it's the truth and justice isn't going to be found in the external. Not going to be found in the news. The neglected feminine, right? Those neglected realms and attributes, that's where the truth and justice is. So there is a huge, almost like an overwhelming, like the scales being so heavily in favour of that, right? Because that's what creates the new. That inner realm is going to be what creates the new outer, right? What did I say here? Okay, I can't find it. Inner and then outer, okay? Yeah, and with the Nautilus, there was this idea of like sacred geometry, purely because I have a book about sacred geometry and it's called How the World is Made. So it was just sort of saying, building a new world for yourself, what, you know, personally, and then like broader, like new structures, new things, right? Sacred geometry, just that I like how the world is made. So it was this idea of building, because it will expand, right? Like the chambered Nautilus, as the chambered Nautilus grows, it grows more compartments to accommodate its bigger size. divine geometry. Going to build, going to expand. There are going to be like new additions. It's that there's a bit of an idea of capacity again there, isn't there, which came up in another reading. Right, sinking, immersing yourself in your inner is going to expand your capacity, and you're going to be able to build something with it. You're going to be able to build going forward, right? Going forward. But you are. I've also written like, what would justice look like? It's maybe going to be something that your inner realm shows you, okay? It's not going to be something that comes externally. Certainly not in the context of like what I've been talking about with that tower. I think what is being made fairly clear is that the answers aren't going to come from that. So for some people, this is going to be like, you're going to have to try what you've not tried before. You're going to have to use your imagination. You're going to have to use your intuition, get in your emotions. All of that's going to have to play a part, right? It doesn't mean that you have to go solely on those things, but there really is a call here. If you want to not just keep perpetuating the past or whatever, you need to kind of use the things that have kind of been alienated or othered, certainly in the West, right? And then there was this ego card, ego. Which came out with the night blooming water lily, which has got lilies in it, as does this Ace of Cups. So it was like that, something grows, right? There is more of something over here. There's more optimism. That's one of the things, right? So this kind of, it doesn't breed fucking optimism, does it? This big beast of a machine. It's like the optimism comes in here. Your inner world is going to be the thing that kind of brings you optimism. Also love, purity, eloquence, all of the things that this here night blooming water lily is symbolic of. Eloquence, so words, right? There's going to be able to communicate it as well. And there's that idea of mud as well, sinking roots into mud and growing. Something beautiful is beginning. There's growth on it here. I've just written bloom in capital letters. Bloom. Your inner world, right? Bloom, and it'll show outwardly. Okay, so the ego, I think this is just here. I've written like the ego's not obstructing anymore. It doesn't mean that your ego is going to be completely kind of gone, because the Jungian, so in Jungian psychology, the ego is the center of consciousness. It represents our subjective identity and conscious experience of the world. It's the I that experiences and interacts with the world, acting as a filter and organizer of thoughts, feelings, and sensations. So it's maybe say like this, immersion in your inner world, whatever beautiful stuff I've just been chatting about here, however that's kind of showing up for you, it's definitely kind of shifting something about the way you view the world, right? Filter, organizer of thoughts, feelings, and sensations. It's shifting something. Right, in daily life, right? Because the ego is essential for navigating daily life, but an overemphasis on ego, Tower can be a card of ego as well, right? Can lead to problems like inflexibility, or like a disconnect from other parts of yourself and your psyche. So here this is kind of suggesting that this beautiful journey, this immersion in your inner world, is going to, be a really psychologically healthy thing for you to do, okay? Psychologically unhealthy. It's healthier over here. Because it blooms, right? It blooms. So that's lovely. It's another long video. There was a bit of a story. Should I share this? Okay, I'm going to pull a card. I'm going to pull a card from this deck here, which is, what's it called? Carnival at the End of the World. It's an Anthropocene Carnival at the End of the World deck. I've not had it that long and I've not used it that much. So I'm going to use it here. I can't pick them up. I'm just going to pull one card and I'm going to read from the book. Shuffle them really badly. Okay. Can we have a card to just close the message down, please? Oh, and it's this one. I've got time for 3. So I've got the Hanged Man. It's quite pause energy, is this? Pause. Again, quite an inner sort of thing in its ways. Let's read from the book. Madame Lulu's Book of Fate. Right, okay. Hanged Man. Okay. Hanged Man. Traveller, surrender. For that is the only preparation one may make for initiation, transformation, metamorphosis. How and for how long your initiation will take place cannot be told to you. Count yourself lucky if you don't find yourself brought to the place by force, ruse, or delirium. Right? You will likely be uncomfortable. You may even lose an eye, not literally. But that will seem a bargain price when transformation is achieved, knowledge is gained, gifts received, right? Which is all this inner stuff. This is a water card as well, Hanged Man, yeah. Your perspective will forever be altered. Yeah, right. The world will seem truly upside down, and you cannot even guess at what will come next until you have put yourself where you need to go. Right, that's what I've been saying, right? Suspend all judgment until you've gone and suspended yourself to get a better view of the topsy-turvy terrain. If you feel as though someone else has forced you into a position of waiting, uncomfortable limbo, solitary punishment, reverse that view and take the circumstances to be the dangling of the chrysalis from a twig. An opportunity to reflect and withdraw from action into patient abiding and the work of subtle forces upon you. It's all good. It's all good. All right, thank you for watching. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I love the back of these cards. They're cool. All right, nice one. Goodbye. Take care of yourself. All of those things. See you later.